here. I haven't seen the film on the screen in about 15 years, and it's not the same on a little screen, you know? No matter what anybody tells you, it's not.
You get lost in the movie like this, which is just great.
And I don't think I've shot film on film since this. I've been working in digital, which has its own wonderful qualities, but this had a dreaminess that was really...
Yeah. Now, did any of you feel cheated in any way visually? Did you feel impaired? You were watching the film, 35mm film. The resolution was wonderful. The color looked great. It hadn't faded at all.
No? I keep it well stored.
Yes, good. Yes. Good. Well, we don't have that opportunity very often, but that was actual projection of film. And I never thought I'd get to the day where I would feel nostalgic over cue marks, but that's
I know. And when it first started, I could see all the flaws in the print, you know, the dust and stuff like that, which you never see anymore. And at first I went, and then I went, no, it's fine, it's film.
I don't know how you did this. I really don't, honest and truly. I see a fair number of period films. We all do. Recent period, you know, ancient period, and everything in between. And sometimes they're working a little too hard to capture a period. You know, they try to put shiny 1945 cars on the street to make you think, whatever it may be.
Well, my suggestion is work with no money. That's my suggestion because, well, it's actually true because you can't you can't buy everything, and you have to figure stuff out. But I also really, one of the things I love, most of my films are period films. I think all of my original material is, and I am fascinated by the real stuff. You know, I always start my work with photographs, writing something with photographs or reading histories, and nothing I could make up is better than reality is wild enough. And you know, I really care about the details of the way real life was and how hard it was, and you know, that the food might have been filled with congealed fat, and you know, whatever the reality is. I love that, and I think it becomes part of the fabric of my films.
What was the inspiration or source for this story?
Well, it had an unexpected source. After I made my Western, Ballad of Little Joe, Ellen Regas, the executive producer, who loved that film, asked me, she loved country music, and asked me if I wanted to make a film about the early days of the country music business. And I said, no, I have no interest in the music business or the film, you know, making a film about any business. But I said, well, let me go away and do some research, and I'll see what I come up with. And I learned about the song collecting, and I went to research at the Columbia Musicology Library, one of the best in the United States, and there was a book called Songcatcher, and that was really, I just loved the title. I loved that word and the idea of it, and the more research I did, I loved this music. My husband is David Mansfield, who did all the music for the film, so it was a good excuse to put all that music in a movie that we loved and had been listening to at home all the time.
Oh my. To live with this music must have been just really soul-stirring.
It was. I didn't know it existed until I met David, and this was, you know, the music that inspired him throughout his career. He had played with Bob Dylan and been with that whole group of people in their early days when they were inspired by this music. In the singing of the scene at the end of the dance, the song "Oh Death," the last woman who sings the last verse is the late, magnificent Hazel Dickens, who was one of Joan Baez's and Judy Collins' great inspiration. She sang with her sister or cousin Alice, Hazel and Alice, and they did recordings of the ballads that inspired Dylan and Baez. So the movie is part of our lives.
Sure. How did you? So many questions to ask. How did you scout your locations?
Oh, that was really fun. Actually, we did a research trip. David and I, the executive producers, sent us on a research trip down to the mountains, and we traveled around to the different folk institutes and spent time in the mountains. And a lot of that whole expression, tell Vine if she's a nice lady, that's what was said about me. Was no one would talk to me at first, and I met an incredible woman who was the ballad consultant on the film and who trained the singers like Emmy Rossum, who was operatically trained at the time. Sheila K. Adams, who's incredible, is a legendary balladeer, and she met me outside somewhere in a park, and we sat and talked for a while. And then after we talked for about 45 minutes, she said, "Why don't you go down to my cousin Jerry's store?" And they're playing some music in the back room now because school's out. And I guess she had called ahead, and she said, "Tell Jerry I sent you and that you're a very nice lady." So, the people are very protective of their culture. They have been exploited horribly from this time till today. And I think they mistake some nice people for not nice people, or not nice people for nice people. But anyway, they trusted me, and it's a great experience.
And I have to ask about casting, from top to bottom.
I was amazed. They're beautiful. And Jane Addams was just blowing my mind. She was.
Well, they're also good.
Yeah.
So let's start with Janet McTeer.
Well, we've been searching for the perfect Lily for about a year, and our budget was very, very low. And so we had approached some stars who turned this movie down because it was too low budget. And usually when big movie stars do low budget movies, they usually shoot near where they live so that they don't have to go away from their families. So nobody really wanted to go to the mountains of North Carolina and leave their families. So anyway, Janet's first American movie was Tumbleweeds, and David did the score for it. And so we had advanced knowledge that it had gotten into Sundance, and as soon as it got in, I knew that our financiers would approve Janet, and that she was perfect. And
And she got an Oscar nomination for Tumbleweeds.
She did.
Yeah.
After that, she got an Oscar nomination for Tumbleweeds. But I had her by then. She was fine.
Well, and she's just,
She's magnificent.
I can't picture anybody else.
No, I can't either. I have to email her and tell her I saw the movie on the screen. How amazing she was.
Pat Carroll. How many of you remember Pat Carroll?
Right?
We all encountered her first as a comedian.
Yeah.
She worked in nightclubs, she worked on TV a lot, and then she sort of reinvented herself. She did this great one-woman show as Gertrude Stein,
Yes,
which I
she did,
saw,
yeah.
which some of you may have seen.
I didn't get to see it.
Oh,
It was done
terrific.
before I met her.
It was terrific. And then, of course, she's the voice of Ursula in The Little Mermaid,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably how the younger
And those of you
generation-
who, I think there's some people out here my age and older who will remember the Cinderella with Leslie Ann Moore that used to be on TV, and Pat Carroll was that's how I knew her, was as one of the stepsisters.
Yes. Well, Pat Carroll isn't in your movie. There's just this woman reminding.
I know.
I mean, that's what impresses me about the movie is I don't feel like I'm watching actors acting. I don't feel like I'm watching sets.
You.
I don't feel like I'm watching
Thank
anything
you.
made up. It just all seems organic and real, and that's kind of miraculous to achieve.
Well, the locations where most of the cabins were, that was also very lucky. These old cabins had all been transported, most of the ones in the film, except for Viney's cabin, had been transported to one area that was a summer camp. Somebody had bought up all these old cabins and brought them by trailer to this one area. So they were all authentic cabins, but they were conveniently in one area. Otherwise, we would have had to travel too far.
Sure.
The only one that was in that magnificent setting, away from everything, was Viney's cabin, which was just heavenly.
Yeah. How did you work with your cinematographer to achieve the look that you wanted, both outdoors and especially indoors?
We looked at a lot of paintings and photographs, and I wanted it to have almost a magical storybook feel. We did tests, and I don't remember exactly the process of coming up with this, but I wanted it to look like a storybook, and look like a world apart.
Because shooting interiors for a period film like this in a cabin with just the glow of a fireplace or an oil lamp, candles or things like that, that's very tough to pull off authentically.
Yeah, I don't even remember how we did it. I remember that night, shooting the night scene in Viney's cabin, I just remember was really painstakingly slow and it was very crowded with the lights. But I mean, that was the look, and the film at that point, had the range to be able to shoot in very, very low light.
What strikes you most watching it again?
The performances. I have to say, I was really, I forgot how incredible all the actors are. I think of all the awards that my work has won, it deserves the ensemble performance one the most. I think Janet was really incredible.
Yeah.
And Jane Addams, who plays Elma, broke my heart. She was really sweet.
Yeah, well, and then you did indeed give Emmy Rossum her first screen role.
Yes.
And she'd been in the next opera chorus?
She had been, what do they call it, a supernumerary? She had been operatically trained, and I sent, for kids who were going to audition for the role, I sent, Sheila K. Adams had made a cassette of herself singing some of the songs, and we sent that out to agents for kids to listen to. And she came in, and she came straight in from her opera lesson and sang country music like she'd been singing it all her life.
But it's not just
amazing.
the singing, her performance too.
Yeah, well, she's a fantastic actress.
Yeah, wow. Do you folks have questions? I have lots more, but I want to give some of you a chance to ask.
How long did it take to make?
How long did it take to make the film?
Well, the shooting or from...
Both.
Well, from this time I started working on the script until the film was shot was 3 years, which is fast. Right, Leonard? I just finished a film. It's only been 9 years since I started the script. The shooting itself was 5 weeks. Yeah, it was very fast, 5 6-day weeks, and I had a little baby. It was really hard.
Wow.
What? Yeah.
Let's get the microphones out to this gentleman here.
Do I forget to repeat?
I was just curious as to, did any of the actors play the instruments that they were playing in the movie, or did they actually sing the songs that they were singing?
All of the singing was recorded on location. Typically with movie musicals, the songs are pre-recorded and actors mouth their own voices. This is all recorded on location. It's collected. We collected music, which we wanted it to have that organic feel. it's again the difference between, it's a choice that if I had a lot of money to make the movie, I would have made anyway because of how organic the performances are because of that. But I probably would have been under pressure to pre-record it on a bigger budget. Nobody played the instruments. My husband, David Mansfield, did a lot of the playing, except for that really swanky first banjo piece that Aiden plays. I can't remember the name of the musician who came in and played that, but David did Mies Watson's fiddle playing and Aiden's guitar playing.
Oh, well, Taj Mahal, of course, must have done his own.
Well, Taj Mahal did his own everything. Taj Mahal, you know, and I was looking at that and I was like, I want more of that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Sort of.
And in the first scene, Janet Batier's playing Barbara Ellen on the piano.
Yeah,
It
the song
looks very convincing.
She was singing that.
Yeah, but
Oh,
playing-
she was. I can't remember. She played it. I forgot. She did play that.
That looked authentic, yeah.
I think she did play it. Yeah. We did loop that though because she was playing and singing, and so we did have to go back so we could separate the music and her voice. So she did re-recorded her voice as opposed to pre-recording.
More questions out there? Let's get the microphones out to some of these people.
Stand up. Stand up
Okay.
again.
Yes.
I've heard various people that it was based on. I've heard the name Francis Densmore, and I wondered if you might mention any other folk song collectors, ethnomusicologists that you had as an inspiration.
Yeah, I don't even know who Francis Densmore is. The inspirations are honored at the end of the movie. Olive Dane Campbell, who was in fact the wife of a Methodist minister who opened a school, and she was the first one to collect the music. She brought it to her sister's house in Boston in the hopes of interesting the English musicologist Cecil Sharp, who was very renowned at the time, exactly for the political reasons. The people of the mountains were considered subhuman. Everybody just wanted the minerals and the land and thought these people were human garbage, and Olive Campbell knew that the music revealed people of great culture, and she collected the songs and brought them to Cecil Sharp, and then they were going to collect them together when he was going to come to the mountains from England, and they were going to collect them together, but she was pregnant and she couldn't go with him. And her name was supposed to be on the collection, but he had an assistant, a woman who they were very close, and she took Olive Campbell's name off of everything.
Cecil Sharp's collection has had some new transfers done by the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress, and I'm not sure if you've worked with them at all.
Not at all, no.
But you might, especially if you're interested in Cecil Sharp, from the British point of view, you might look into that connection.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
More hands. We'll wait for a microphone.
We got a microphone.
Right back there. Okay.
Hi. Along the same sort of thread, the comment in the movie about the publishing of the music affecting public sentiment of the people of the mountains of Appalachia, I thought that was very important and striking, and I was wondering what sort of impact you think this film has had on public sentiment of people of Appalachia today.
I don't think it's had any. They're the biggest fans of the movie. I just shot somehow, hardcore New Yorker that I am or used to be. I keep ending up in the South making movies. I just finished shooting a film in South Carolina, and my assistant's, it's the favorite movie of my assistant's father. Nobody in New York honestly knows the film, or in the Northeast, but all the people who worked on my movie, who came from all over the South, knew it, loved it. Country music is very, it's very well respected. I don't think it needs this movie to for anything. The thing that does mean a lot to me is that the people who are the traditionalists, who trusted me and David with their singing, with their versions of things, who appeared in the movie, were willing to appear in the movie, did not feel that we exploited them or portrayed them negatively, and that was important to me.
Yeah, speaking
Oh, okay. I don't know whether to be thrilled or depressed,
Both.
in the sense that
I know what
you did such a beautiful job on such a low budget and created such fantastic atmosphere, and the acting and the casting was phenomenal.
Thank you.
What is wrong with Hollywood? With their mega budgets and high stars, and could you comment on that?
Do you have a leak? Can I comment on it? Yeah, I can. I mean, at the risk of, I don't want to make such a wonderful event a downer, but this is what sexism is, it's a film about women by a woman. The women are portrayed with, for me it became like a quilt of the lives of different women, being woven together into this story. And all of my work that's what I'm interested in. And I feel that my work reveals women as we see ourselves. And I don't know that that's of much interest to the men who run Hollywood and want to make a lot of money. Simply.
Have you seen?
Leonard knows.
I know.
He knows.
He's
He's been my champion for years. I'm just so indebted to him.
Well, no, I'm indebted to you. If you haven't seen Maggie's film, The Ballad of Little Joe, with Susie Amos, run right home. Well, don't run right home.
No.
When you get home, find a way to see it, because
Yeah.
that's a wonderful movie.
It's tough to find.
And The Kill-Off,
Actually,
very different.
Very different, yeah. That's
A
film
film
noir.
based on Jim Harrison.
Jim Thompson.
Jim Thompson
Yeah.
story, yes.
But you'll see, if you have the interest to look at a lot of work, you'll see the common threads. The Jim Thompson, for those of you who don't know, was hard-boiled noir writer. After Dark, My Sweet, The Getaway, The Grifters are all based on his books. But the book that I loved his writing, and the book that I made into a story is about an evil woman, and that I made into a film. And some people consider it the truest in feeling of any adaptation to film of Thompson's movies. But again, it's a different way of seeing, I guess.
Let's make sure the mic is on.
Yeah.
speak into it.
But I also have to say, here's a room full of men who seem to have enjoyed the work too. So I think it's those big guys out west, and the 27-year-old guys who run the companies and the distribution companies. It's not the people I know or that you know. It's,
Well, thank you for being so undaunted. And it may be an uphill battle, but imagine the hands of all women pushing against you.
well, that's
That
why I
help.
have to. I have daughters, so.
Yeah. But I'm curious about the relationship between the two women.
Mhm.
Presumably there wouldn't be any historical record of that relating to the music, but
No, none at all. That was something I brought in. It has nothing to do with the music or any historical anything other than we have come to know, as we have opened our eyes to things, that Not all the time, but sometimes when spinster ladies lived together for their whole lives, who may have been teachers together in those days, they were married. You know, they were lifelong partners. And so I wanted to bring that into the story so that everybody in the story, everybody has a love story, really, you know.
And that's the way you treated it, and I really appreciated the graceful way that the sexuality was portrayed in every aspect, really. And I think that you're to be greatly credited for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's another.
I had a question about the soundtrack. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it or not. The soundtrack actually has a couple of classical pieces on it. And,
It's original score.
okay, the original scores.
Yeah.
I just meant it's
Yes,
more
it does. The
classical
underscore
than the folk.
is traditional. Yeah, is
Right,
traditional.
and just the decision to put that on there. I've never heard a soundtrack from a movie that had that in it, sort of the background music to some of the scenes instead of just the actual songs that were portrayed in the movie.
Well, the country music that is the people's lives, and the underscore has to do with the drama of the story, and so I felt they should have a counterpoint. And the dreaminess of some of the images is kind of late 19th century, early 20th century, so I wanted a score that had a little bit of that sort of Ravel kind of feeling of classical but very delicate.